Y'all know what's going on. It's time for another episode of Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Baker. Welcome to the show, y'all. In prison, man, anything can happen at any time. For a lot of different reasons. And a lot of times we don't see the reason people make decisions in here is justified or whatever the case may be, right? Now, some are harder to swallow than others, but there's this one dude, man, that I want to tell you about named Jack. And Jack, man, is a good dude, man. Good dude. But Jack ended up having to join a gang. And a lot of people were tripping about Jack joining the gang and all this and that because of the way that he ended up becoming a part of it. Okay? Now let me break this story down for you, man, because it gets real twisted. In the penitentiary, you deal with a lot of people, man. You deal with a lot of people that are wicked, that no remorse, no reform, no rehabilitation in them, no redemption at all. And I say that reluctantly because I tend to want to believe that everybody has good in them. I really do, man. But I've run across some people in prison, and it's very few people that they don't care to change. They don't care to be different. They just don't. They like the way they are. And that's a dark place to be, you know. And they don't care to be different in a way that makes sense to a lot of people. They feel as though they can do anything and get away with anything at any time. And everybody else around them is supposed to accept that. Everybody around them is supposed to acclimate to how they move and how they get down, right? And let me just be blunt. Tim was a booty bandit, y'all. Y'all know what a booty bandit is. I've said some of these things in past episodes, but let me break it down for you just so you know. A booty bandit is somebody that goes around, you know what I'm saying, assaulting other individuals. And now, use your imagination, right? You feel what I'm saying? That is their main purpose. That's what they do. That's how they maneuver. That's how they do their time, right? And see, in the situation here, it wasn't about trying to be in a relationship with somebody. No, it wasn't that. It wasn't like that. See, Tim is a predator. Tim is a vicious, sadistic person. And he liked hurting people. He enjoyed hurting people. But see, Tim was slick. He had that gift of gab. And he had that charisma that if you didn't know what was up with him, you'd be drawn to him. You see. Now let me say something. See, people like that are able to flourish in prison because the people around them, we've been conditioned to mind our business, right? You know how people say that evil triumphs when good people do nothing? Well, in prison, most people in here feel like getting in somebody else's business is wrong, even when it's going to be harmful to the individual. You know, it's like we don't pull your coattail to it and all this and that, right? You know what I mean? And in this situation, that's what happened. That's what happened. See, when Jack came into the penitentiary, young dude, I'm talking about cool as a fan. He was green, like, you know, he laughed, joked, and kicked. He was naive, man. Naive. And Tim peeped that immediately. Immediately, he peeped it. And he went to him. Started kicking it with him and talking to him and all this and that. And you had a few guys that would catch Jack when he would be by himself and tell him, look, man, you might want to watch the company you keep. They wouldn't come all the way out with it and say it. They would just hint at stuff. And Jack, like I say, being naive like he was, he wouldn't catch it. He wouldn't catch it because he was so green, he'd go back and say something to Tim, And Tim will be like, yeah, they telling you right, man. You got to be careful around here about who you associate with. But I'm going to keep you up on who's cool and who ain't. You feel me? So that helped because they were vague in what they were telling Jack. That helped solidify Tim's position with Jack as somebody that he could trust. Right? Now Tim, he could multitask. He's at two people at the same time. It's this other dude named Reggie. He eyeing him too. You know what I'm saying? He got his type, y'all. He got his type. He like them short. Don't matter whether they black, white, Latina, Asian. It didn't matter. But he like them short. Because see, Tim was tall. Tim was about, I guess, 6 foot. Stocky. Worked out all the time. He ain't quite had no 20s, you know what I'm saying? But he probably had some 15, 16, you know what I'm saying? Cut up. Penitentiary body, you know what I'm saying? Cut up all the way up top, G.I. Joe, small legs, all this and that, right? You know, kicking it like that. But see, there was this other dude named Reggie, right? He fit the bill. And see, Reggie happened to be in the cell with a dude that despised Tim. But see, he was scared of Tim too. Because see, in the past, he almost fell victim to Tim. So he made it his business, you know, if he could get away with it without getting caught up. Because you can get caught up. Even though Tim was a sucker. You know what I'm saying? Tim will take care of the business, right? So you got to be careful about how you're going to put yourself in somebody else's business. So Reggie Selly told him, look, man, watch dude, man. Dude ain't straight. You know, and he told Reggie bluntly what Tim was up to. And it spooked Reggie because Reggie's not a fighter. You know, he's like, man, well, what do I do? He said, man, look, people like him, you got to confront him and tell him you ain't on that and lay it out plain. But make sure you do it in front of people. You feel what I'm saying? That way he'll be less likely to rush you. But if you do it in private, you might have a problem. So, man, Reggie took about 2 weeks, man. He's trying to get himself together, to gas himself up, to say something, right? And the whole time, he's noticing how Tim is getting more and more aggressive with him and Jack. You know what I mean? And he's like, man, what am I going to do? So after about 2 weeks, man, he finally get his nerves up and he said, man, I'm going to go to him. I'm finna just tell him. So his Sally tell him, man, make sure you got a lot of people in the pod. And when he come over and he try to say something to you, just loudly put him on blast. Man, I ain't with that, man. So Tim come over to the table where, you know, Reggie was playing some checkers with another guy and there was other people around and people was on the phone. You know what I'm saying? It was like 20 or 30 people out in the pod, right? And it was stuff going on and people moving around, cooking meals and all this and that. It was a lot of commotion. So when Tim came over and sat down at the table, he said, man, what y'all got going on? And, you know, Reggie was moving the checker piece, but his other hand was sitting on the table. So when Tim sat down at the table, he put his hand on top of Reggie's free hand, right? Reggie pulled his hand back and said, hold up, man. He said, man, look, I'm not with none of that, man, that you on, man. So whatever you got in your mind, you need to get that up out your mind, man, because I ain't on that, man. I ain't going. Now, Tim looked at him. I mean, he had a frown on his face. He was pissed because he was embarrassed at the same time, plus he was upset that Reggie had peeped his game. Reggie had peeped his game, see. See what I'm saying? See, Tim was one of them people like, he liked to trick you all the way up to the moment. He liked it like that. That's how sick he was. He wanted to see that look on your face of utter fear. That's what got him off. You understand? So now that that element of surprise was gone, his interest in Reggie left. So he locked in on Jack. Locked in on Jack. So now he done got Jack working out with him. They breaking bread, making burritos and all this and that. And see, Tim's so sick, right? When when Jack wasn't around, when he making the burrito, he'll spit in them. Oh yeah. He'll spit in them, y'all. This how twisted his mind was. You feel what I'm saying? See, let me tell y'all something about some of the people in here, man. They might not have the nerve to do certain things in your face, even though they'll fight and they're not cowards, this and that, right? That's their way of building up to something. See that spitting in the food, that's penitentiary kissing. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah, of course the person don't know about it, but in the sick person's mind, he's telling himself, yeah, he kissing me. he got me in him. You understand what I'm saying? I know you don't understand what I'm saying, but are you following what I'm saying? Because I don't want you to understand it like that, because that's sick. You understand? That's sick. You feel me? But if that's what, when you and your girl are kissing, right? Or you and your partner, whoever you're with, however you get down, when you're kissing, what are you doing? You're exchanging spit. You feel me? And you got a lot of people up in here that they try to figure out ways to get that back, right? But see, Tim was sick like that, but they breaking bread. They doing all these things together. And one day, for all out of the blue, Tim puts his celly out. It's getting close. But see, once he's tired of you and done all of what he wants to do, he gets rid of you. So he puts his celly out. His celly was happy to go. Because he felt trapped, he felt in prison. You know what I'm saying? Within the prison. And he bumps down on Jack and he tells Jack, he said, man, why don't you move in with me? Jack, again, like I said, green, naive, not getting it, done got close to Tim. Tim ain't played him all to the left or nothing like that in ways that he could peep it. And ain't nobody telling him exactly what he needs to hear like Reggie said it did. Everybody's watching and everybody knows what Tim is doing. But penitentiary rules in effect. Mind your business. Mind your business. So Jack moves in with him. Y'all. And the first night that he moves in with him, it goes down. And Tim got what he wanted. That look of utter fear on Jack's face. And that night, for hours, people in the park could hear him screaming, help me, please, somebody help me. He's in there fighting for his life. And the next morning, now check this out, before I get to the next morning. The officers, they make their rounds, right? Every 15, 20 minutes they walk around, then they count at different times, But they walk around, they're trying to see what's going on and all this and that. And they heard the yelling and the screaming. They heard it. But when they would go to the cell, they would look in, right? And this is another sick thing about prisons back in the day. Certain things that they would do back in the day, it was counted like by a lot of people that work at the prison. This is what happens in prison. You see? So even though they would know something might be happening, you'd have to explicitly ask for help. You'd have to explicitly say, he is trying to whatever to me. He is trying to beat me up. He is trying to assault me. Whatever. You'd have to say that. And Jack just didn't say it. When the officer would come around, he was hoping that the officer would see on his face that he needed help. He had been in a excuse me. He had been in there fighting for his life, trying to survive the night. But no help was coming. The officers knew, but no help was coming. So the next morning, when the doors opened, Jack, still dressed, the same clothes he had on the night before, sweating. He looked like he'd been in a fight, and he was terrified. He ran out the cell. And by then, he had mustered up the nerve, or he didn't care what anybody thought at that point, to tell the police, he's trying to assault me. You understand? Do you understand what I'm saying? So they asked him, did he assault you? And he started crying in front of all of these grown men. And he said, yes. So immediately they hit the button, called for the nurses, secured the cell, locked Tim down in the cell. See, they knew what Tim was about. They knew what he was about. but they never could get anybody to say it to the point of where they could do anything about it. You got to say it. And see, Jack was embarrassed until that morning. And when he got down there, when he got to the nurses, and the nurses examined him, they saw that he had been assaulted. And he cried, and they consoled him. And they told him, the things that they would have to do to make sure, that if they decided to prosecute, that it would be a solid case. And he just couldn't imagine sitting in front of people in a courtroom saying anything. And he said, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. Screaming. And they tried to talk him out of it. But they couldn't. He was embarrassed, y'all. He was embarrassed beyond words. And they let his mother come to visit him hoping that his mother would be able to talk him into changing his mind, and she couldn't. She felt terrible because there was nothing she could do. She couldn't take him home with her. He was going to have to stay there for more years. How do you protect your baby in a situation like this? She couldn't. There's nothing that she could do. So y'all think about that before you get caught up in something and come up in here. Because mom and dad ain't going to be able to help you. Granny ain't going to be able to help you. Granddad ain't going to be able to help you. Your brother, your sister, the people that you love in your life that will be there for you, they're not going to be able to help you. They're not going to be able to help you. And Jack realized that. So he decided he had to do what he had to do to survive this environment. And if you want to know what he did, you're going to have to tune in to the next episode to find out, right? This has been another episode of Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Baker, and I say peace, y'all.